Hello. 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 Hello.
Hello. Started with the most venerated name of Almighty Allah. I would like all of my participants today. I would like to welcome you on behalf of ZDHC Gateway. I'll take the opportunity to thank you all for being a part of this auspicious occasion today. And I would like to present my humble gratitude to Almighty Allah as well, who has selected all of us out of so many people in this noble type of a cause that we are here today to make an effort which is a contribution, which is our contribution towards the restoration and preservation of our mother nature and our environment. हम सब अपने अपने घरों से रोजाना अपनी जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शंस को पूरा करने के लिए निकलते हैं, लेकिन हम सब इस वक्त जितने भी हाजिरीन मौजूद हैं यहाँ पे, somehow or the other, directly or indirectly, we are related with the renewable resources. The sense of pride behind our work is that apart from earning livelihood for ourselves and for our families, we are contributing something with the humanity, with the betterment of the humanity. हम हमारी जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शंस की एक प्राइड है उसमें जो हम लेते हैं कि हमारा जो काम है वो it is bringing, no matter big or small, but it is bringing some benefit to the humanity, and that is the preservation of the nature, जिसमें हमने जिंदा रहना है और फिर हमारे बाद हमारी आने वाली जनरेशन. Before coming specifically to this ZDHC and clear water, I would like to highlight the importance of the environment in general. I remember a decade back, this never used to be this kind of a talk of the town. Environment never used to be such a hot issue. It is such a hot issue right now that a girl of just 17 years, a Swedish girl, Greta Thunberg, she left her school, she left her studies, and she adapted a narrative that why shall I go to school? Why shall I continue my studies? When I'll come to know that at the end of my graduation, when I'll come to know that this world is not livable anymore, मैं जिस दिन अपनी ग्रेजुएशन की डिग्री लेके बाहर आऊँगी तो वो डिग्री मेरे किस काम की, वो इल्म मेरा किस काम का. She started alone. She gathered a number of students of a similar mindset. A huge population was gathered, and now this narrative of her is so much widely accepted. And can you imagine, it is accepted, it is being heard by forums like United Nations, European Union as well. I'll just show you a small clip of her speech in UNICEF. Apart from the content of her speech, I would like you to concentrate जो उस लड़की ने, उस बच्ची ने जो लहजा अपनाया है, और फिर मैं उससे आगे कुछ चीज़ों को खास करके आपको अपना पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, अपना नैरेटिव ज़रा समझाने की कोशिश करूँगा.
Greta, your first climate Greta, your first climate strike was a lonely event a little over a year ago, and in the intervening time you have sparked the interest of millions, literally, of children around the globe, demanding action for climate change. What's your message to world leaders today?
My message is that we'll be watching you. This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering, people are dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you? For more than 30 years, the science has been crystal clear. How dare you continue to look away and come here saying that you're doing enough when the politics and solutions needed are still nowhere in sight? You say you hear us and that you understand the urgency. But no matter how sad and angry I am, I do not want to believe that. Because if you really understood the situation and still kept on failing to act, then you would be evil, and that I refuse to believe. The popular idea of cutting our emissions in half in 10 years only gives us a 50% chance of staying below 1.5 degrees and the risk of setting off irreversible chain reactions beyond human control. 50% may be acceptable to you, but those numbers do not include tipping points, most feedback loops, additional warming hidden by toxic air pollution, or the aspects of equity and climate justice. They also rely on my generation sucking hundreds of billions of tons of your CO2 out of the air with technologies that barely exist. So a 50% risk is simply not acceptable to us, we who have to live with the consequences. To have a 67% chance of staying below a 1.5 degrees of global temperature rise, the best odds given by the IPCC, the world had 420 gigatons of CO2 left to emit back on January 1st, 2018. Today that figure is already down to less than 350 gigatons. How dare you pretend that this can be solved with just business as usual and some technical solutions? With today's emissions levels, that remaining CO2 budget will be entirely gone within less than 8.5 years. There will not be any solutions or plans presented in line with these figures here today, because these numbers are too uncomfortable and you are still not mature enough to tell it like it is. You are failing us, but the young people are starting to understand your betrayal. The eyes of all future generations are upon you. And if you choose to fail us, I say we will never forgive you. We will not let you get away with this. Right here, right now, is where we draw the line. The world is waking up, and change is coming whether you like it or not. Thank you.
The world is waking up. The change is coming, whether you like it or not. I was just requesting you that apart from the content of this speech, just look at the arrogance of this young girl, or what we can say, the anger And why this anger is widely accepted in front of the whole political elite sitting in front, the whole global political elite, can they listen to anybody else? I mean, just 17-year-old, are they so, idle to listen a speech of a 17-year-old? But no. Why she was given time? Because she had a cause. And she has a cause which is definitely an eye-catching problem these days. His political elite was compelled, वो मजबूर थे कि वो इस लड़की का ये लहजा सुने. Why? Because she was talking about something. ये उन लोगों की बात कर रही थी, ये उन कारखानों की बात कर रही थी जिनसे ये पोल्यूशन एमिट हो रही है. तो brands भी, because of the public pressure on those political leaders जो उनकी nations उनके ऊपर exert कर रही हैं, वही nations हैं जो ये expensive brands खरीदती हैं, जो fashion garments को afford करती हैं, और हम उनसे किस तरह से related हैं, because वो fashion garments हमारे मुल्कों के कारखानों में तैयार होता है. Furthermore, ZDHC की classification में brands, suppliers, ये सारी चीज़ें अभी आपकी प्रेजेंटेशन में आएंगी और आपको वाज़ेह हो जाएगा कि हम लोग इन चीज़ों से किस तरह डायरेक्टली इफेक्ट हो रहे हैं. Fine. Now, it's a short video once again regarding ZDHC, and then we'll start. Or before playing this video, I would like to state that this ZDHC and all, it was started once again after a tragic incident in an underdeveloped or developing country like that of ours, but for sure it was not our country. Probably it was somewhere in India or Bangladesh. That there was a textile industrial park and some boys or young children were playing in that. Eventually, reportedly, they drank some water from a tap there, and that water was actually contaminated. Contaminated because of the improper disposal of the effluent from those factories. I repeat, improper disposal of effluent from those factories. The water got contaminated, the undersurface water got contaminated, and young children drank that water. Some of them got seriously ill, and probably few of them were reported to be, they have fatal injuries, they succumb to their injuries and they were dead. Then there come the Greenpeace. It's a world-renowned organization, as we all know, that they are, it's an NGO which work for the preservation of environment. और वो इतनी बड़ी NGO है कि उसकी कारगुजारियाँ अगेन UNO जैसे और यूनाइटेड नेशन और यूरोपियन यूनियन जैसी फोरम्स के ऊपर भी डिस्कस की जाती है. ग्रीन पीस ने इस इंसिडेंट के बाद स्ट्रॉन्ग प्रोटेस्ट लॉन्च किया, एंड टू आवर सरप्राइज दैट होल इंडस्ट्रियल पार्क वाज शट डाउन. अब मैं आपको एक ZDHC से रिलेटेड वीडियो दिखाता हूं, एंड देन we'll move further.
Clothing meets a basic human need. It's also a way to express our personal style. Who doesn't like to have some fun with fashion? But we rarely stop to think about how our clothing choices are impacting the planet. In many countries, making clothing and footwear still involves the use of harmful chemicals. A decade ago, Greenpeace challenged the industry to start tackling 11 of the most toxic chemical groups. Soon after, the Zero Discharge of Hazardous Chemicals Foundation was born as an industry initiative of brands, manufacturers and chemical companies collaborating to remove and replace these toxins. So how did they start? ZDHC initiated a mind shift, expanding the focus from consumer protection to also protecting the workers and the environment in the production countries. In addition to a restricted substance list, RSL, banning toxins from the finished products, ZDHC introduced a manufacturer's restricted substance list, MRSL, banning hazardous chemicals from the production process. So what has ZDHC achieved so far? The most recent data shows that 98% of tested facilities in our sample have no detections on the 11 hazardous chemical groups identified by Greenpeace, which reflects that those chemicals are no longer intentionally used by the ZDHC community. A community that has grown from 6 to 30 brands and 150 contributors in total. 100% of brands are committed to implementing the ZDHC MRSL, and more than 80 testing labs around the world have been approved. In short, the groundwork has been laid for better chemicals management, but ZDHC's job is far from done, because the textile industry is huge and real impact requires collective action on a global scale. So what's needed next? ZDHC will continue to grow its community, increasing convergence so that more manufacturers and brands follow the same MRSL. ZDHC will continue to train stakeholders in sustainable chemicals management along a complex supply chain and raise awareness among consumers, because it's our fashion choices that will make the biggest impact. After all, we don't just want to look good, we want to feel good too.
From here, we came to know that approximately a decade back, Greenpeace initiated a movement of detox and all. And I would like to correlate this, that when Greenpeace launched the protest against that, regarding that industrial park, and that part was, and that whole industrial park was crushed, and there was no textile production anymore. I don't mean to say that this would have continued to be the this would have resulted to be in a shutdown of the whole textile industry, but definitely fashion textile industry के ऊपर किस किस्म के मसाइल आ सकते थे अगर इस प्रॉब्लम को फौरन से कैटर कर दिया जाता. And we are so thankful for those 6 initiating brands, world-renowned brands. After this incident, 6 brands gathered up and they immediately formed ZDHC. They laid the foundation of ZDHC. We are very, very thankful. We should be thankful that ZDHC was formed, and very immediately they tried to build a trust factor with the leading fashion garments manufacturers and among those global environmental agencies, that instead of closing all these units, we will definitely take certain measures and steps that the manufacturing of fashion garments will not harm the environment, will not harm the nature anymore in the future. Fine. In that context, they took the samples from the affluents of which was being discharged from the factories. They identified certain materials on priority basis, and they were found to be 11 families of different chemicals, whole family, chemical families, not 11, just 11 elements, chemical families. Those which were identified to be stopped very immediately. Fine. Then multiple brands, although it was started by the 6 topmost brands of the world, but behind this, after learning this noble cause, many brands, many other brands also joined them. In July 2001, this all occurred, and in the first quarter of July 2012, within just 6 months, this ZDHC, zero discharge of hazardous chemical, was properly formed within just 6 months. I would like to highlight the importance that the cause was so big and the task was so big that for that 6 months seems to be nothing, because there are multiple brands in the world present. They have their own targets, they have their own vision, they have their own mission, and in order to converge them at a single point agenda, it was a huge task which was, miraculously, I would use the word miraculously accomplished by those 6 brands which initiated the ZDHC. And then In 2015, it was properly, formed in Amsterdam. It was registered in Amsterdam to make further the guidelines, the framework, how this organization would work, and what is going to be, the proper procedures which they will definitely guide their suppliers, their solution providers to follow in order to, achieve this target of zero discharge of hazardous chemicals. Then it became a multi-stakeholder organization involving different stakeholders, involving different governments, involving different environmental agencies of different states, and in order to bring everybody on the same page, because prior to that, every brand, we all know this, that every brand has its own limits of BOD, COD, and So it was difficult for supplier also in order to fulfill the needs of every supplier separately. It was a great difficulty, So they decided to converge on one point and make the things a lot more easier for their suppliers, for their solution providers also. So this was one of the greatest advantage of ZDHC in terms of the suppliers, in terms of the solution providers. And in 2020 onwards, what they did, what the ZDHC then did, that instead of setting some unverifiable targets, there are certain targets which are unverifiable, they are just, sounds good when you listen to them. They set some verifiable targets with deadlines that we will achieve this target by 2023, we will achieve this target by 2025, so on and so forth. This was such a big achievement that instead of just talking every year in environmental summits and conferences and stuff like that, they took some serious steps, they made guidelines, they made proper legislations, and then they compelled their suppliers, they compelled their solution providers to abide by the laws which they formed, to comply all those compliances, and then they'll do the further business with them. Mission and vision. Vision is widespread implementation of sustainable chemistry driving innovations and best practices in the textile, apparel, leather. Initially it was started with textile industry, and then as we all know that fashion garments and fashion apparel, it includes footwear as well, and leather industry as well, which contributes. Leather industry especially contributes a lot in the pollution and all. So leather and the footwear industry was also included in this later on.